What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's Motorfest video, I do want to discuss two interesting topics. The first one is, of course, going to be once again the main stage, but this time I'm going to talk about the main stage versus a Motorpass. I do know a lot of people are most likely kind of mixed on like the overall design of the main stage. I did end up making a video talking about this, pretty much going over like the changes and maybe some things they could end up doing to it to make it, better. Now, the thing about this, though, is I am pretty sure the main stage in Motorfest is at least going to be the, upgraded version of the Motorpass before, or at least like a new version of it. Now, I would say back in the Crew 2 that the Motorpass was honestly a pretty dope design. I would also like to know what you guys think about the Motorpass in the comments below. Did you like it back then? Was there some things you would have changed about it? I would say the biggest thing about the Motorpass in the Crew 2 before is probably going to come down to the fact of at least making it bigger. And that was probably like my biggest complaint back in the day for the Motor Pass itself. Like, don't get me wrong, 50 items is obviously great. Maxing out and leveling up the Motor Pass was insanely easy back then in the Crew 2, so that was obviously not going to be a problem. But I would say they probably could have got away with maybe 75 items. I do know 100 items is probably a bit insane. Now, from what I have seen so far, I would say a lot of players did like the way the Motor Pass was back in the Crew 2. Like, I didn't really see that many complaints about it besides, not having enough items, or of course adding more items into the pass itself. I do also know maxing out the pass back then was incredibly easy. I feel like most players probably had it like completely at max out at 50 within like the first 2 weeks of like that new update coming out. So maxing out like all four of the main stages, or like, maxing out the main stage and then going after the main timeline afterwards is definitely going to take longer than around a week, unless you're like, using exploits or glitching and stuff like that. But I would say the biggest question here is, do you guys like a Motor Pass, or would you prefer something like a main stage over it? For me personally, I would say it's probably good to maybe have both, even though that's most likely not going to happen. I've also seen pretty much everywhere that there is nothing about a Motor Pass coming, although that might end up changing maybe in like Season 3, like who knows, maybe we might end up seeing a Motor Pass in a future season. To be honest though, if I had to guess, maybe they might end up adding like a Motor Pass into like the next year of the game itself. We do know Motorfest is obviously only around 4.5 months in right now, so we're not even in the next part of like the next event for Season 2. So I would most likely say a Motor Pass in the future is definitely not going to be written off. Now the question is though, is if they were to add a Motor Pass into this game, let's say next year, what would be the best way to do it and how could they actually implement it in? Now I would say right off the bat, maybe adding around 70 items at least instead of 50 is probably going to be a better way to do it. And then on top of that, maybe add like 4 or 5 vehicles into it instead of like 3. And then maybe add like better vanity items that players might actually want. We do know a lot of the vanity items back in the Crew 2 were honestly not all that great. And in some ways, guys, I have to admit, some of them a lot of players are most likely not even going to use. And they are probably just trying to get them to, of course, get the cars unlocked. And then on the other side of that Motor Pass, we're also going to have challenges, which we do know back in the Crew 2, a lot of those were extremely fun. I have to admit though, the last few seasons of the game, they were honestly very boring. All you actually had to do was get like icon points or like, XP that is in Motorfest. So having legitimate challenges that would actually bring a player in every day or even weekly would probably be a better approach. And I would say something like that even right now in Motorfest would be awesome. Like, to be honest, guys, having like driving milestones or like, daily activities that get you money and XP would be amazing. And who knows, maybe weekly challenges that would also get you like extra money and, parts and stuff like that would be awesome. But if they were to add something like a Motor Pass, you obviously have to have challenges to level them up. So the way I was looking at this though is if they were to add something like a Motor Pass, we are most likely going to see challenges alongside of it. So I guess in some way that's going to be a win-win. Now I would admit, guys, I have seen a lot of mixed opinions on the main stage itself, and that is mainly going to come from leveling up the main stage and the items you are getting from it. I do know a lot of players, including myself, would like to have better items in there, whether it's going to be like extra money, like, not 100,000. As I did mention that one video of the main stage being updated, maybe they can give us more money and like different things from it, like maybe parts or like even more cars and stuff that we might have not had before. And who knows, maybe more cars we already own, hensing more money. I would say changes like that to the main stage would make it better, and who knows, maybe like upgrading the level to it to like maybe 6 instead of 4, and even 7 on some of them, or like maybe have like the main PvP one like level 7, have like the Explore one staying at level 4, and then have like the playlist one at like level 8 or something like that. But keep the main thing to where if you do max one out, you obviously can start the timeline itself. Now, the only issue with that, though, is if they were to increase the levels of the main stage, it cannot be 350,000. I would say that's a bit insane. Like, when I did see 250 to 300,000 per rank, I was honestly like, yeah, that's a little bit crazy. I would say around 100,000 would probably be enough. Similar to like the main like timeline leveling up, like, in that being 100k, besides level 2 being 300. But I would say having more items in the main stage would be a better approach, because in some ways I would say in Motorpass having 50 items in it for that entire like season, which again I think is like 60 or something days, might actually bring players in more because they are doing like daily challenges. There's also going to be weekly challenges for XP and money and stuff like that, but on top of that you're also getting like vanity items and cars and like all kinds of stuff that are going to bring a player back. I would like to know what you guys think about it. If you did have a choice, would you rather see a main stage like being updated in Motorfest now, or would you rather see like a Motor Pass being implemented into this game? I do also know in some ways having that being like $10 might spark some issues, but who knows, maybe in the future they might end up adding a Motor Pass alongside of the main stage.